After we finish studying this biography of Padmasambhava, I plan to teach 2 books written by Khenpo Tsultrim Lodro. One explores the relationship between the mind and brain science, and the other explains emptiness through the lens of modern physics. The Chinese version can be distributed to you tomorrow. You can take a look at it first on your own if needed. There should be a Tibetan version as well, and if so, many of us here understand both languages. So you might want to prepare for it in advance. It might still take some time before we start, but I believe that this combination is wonderful. Sometimes we can read about Guru Rinpoche, and at other times we can see what modern science says. We will study these topics together then. What is the title of that book again? It's titled Decoding the Secrets of the Super Brain, right? I will have it distributed to you later. It actually contains the content of both books. I really hope that a lot of people, especially those who know Chinese, no matter what their background is, will take some time to study Decoding the Secrets of the Super Brain. Studying it can help clear away many of our doubts. This is especially necessary for educated people. But for those who never went to school and became ordained in solitary, quiet places, it is fine if they don't study it. Within their core values, their understanding of past and future lives is already very solid. However, as for other people, many of them believe that consciousness is merely produced by the brain. They have quite a strong wrong view regarding this. Therefore, in this book, the author primarily addresses this specific issue, so it is meaningful for us to study it together. Among those who have received an education, some might say they have already graduated from college or attended high school. So we will see how the book explains it then. Now, let's continue with the life of Padmasambhava. As we mentioned yesterday, Guru Rinpoche was revealing various Terma treasures, transforming many lands across the Tibetan region, and constructing water supply projects. In order to test whether these projects could actually be accomplished, the king requested him to carry them out. And then Padmasambhava set up a mandala and spent the entire morning performing mental blessings. As a result, a patch of dry land in the Drakmar area suddenly bubbled up with a lot of water. People later named this place the Dragon Pond. The king then requested Guru Rinpoche to continue, so he transformed the sandy beach in the middle of Drakmar Lake into a lush green meadow. This entire area became beautifully green. Later that afternoon, at the cliff Lawe Dong, a vast forest instantly appeared. Look at Larungar today. In recent years, we've planted quite a few trees on both the shady and sunny slopes. As the old saying goes, one generation plants the trees and the next enjoys the shade. Sometimes when I go to check on them, I think to myself, it might be difficult for our generation to enjoy their shade. We are planting the trees right now so that the next generation of people in Larungar can enjoy the shade there in the future. As for Guru Rinpoche, I don't know what kind of method he used, but in an instant, a massive forest just appeared right there. This must have been manifested through his miraculous powers. The forest was named the Lawetzal Musk Deer Grove. The next morning, Padmasambhava performed his mental blessings once again. From the dry lands at the top of the valley in Zungkar, a magnificent, continuously splashing waterfall tumbled down. A beautiful waterfall appeared just like that. Actually, the area around Lhasa is quite pleasant during the summer. If you visit Sami or Chimfu in the summer, the scenery in those places is really nice. However, in some areas, the mountains are not covered with trees yet. They are completely barren these days. So, if there is anyone here from Lhasa today, please don't mind me saying this. Maybe I shouldn't say too much. Lhasa truly carries immense blessings. Many sublime masters and generations of kings came from that region. But regarding the forests, it seems that Guru Rinpoche manifested them only in certain areas. For example, around the sacred site of the protector Shangolamo, there is also a patch of forest. Then Guru Rinpoche asked the king, "Now, where shall I make the fields?" He probably intended to transform many places into agricultural fields. He had such a vision. At that time, when the malicious ministers saw that all these instructions could really be accomplished as he proclaimed, they gathered in the small council to discuss the matter. It seems that in ancient Tibetan region, the small council and the big council were quite similar to the Senate and the House of Representatives today. The king was surrounded by many ministers who held various kinds of discussion. Sometimes a king was just like the British Queen, serving merely as a figurehead without much actual power. If you look at it this way, it appears from history that King Trisong Detsen was extremely powerful. Accounts say he ruled 2/3 of Jambudvipa. There are various claims about this. However, regarding the actual governance, the political reality back then might have been different. I have not reviewed these history books for many years. Back in my school days, I remember reading a short book by the scholar Dangkar Losang Trinley called The Theocratic System of Tibetan Region. I read it when I was a student. This book discusses how the kings used to rule in those days. It was not like what you see in the West, where they have that system of church and state combined. In our Buddhist tradition, it is based on a completely different logic compared to Western political history, so we cannot just treat them as the same thing. But still, you can definitely see a bit of that dynamic at play here. After those wicked ministers talked it over in that small council, they said, "The land and river valleys have been improved. However, we fear this Tantrika intends to make this country excellent and then bestow it on India. Our best temporary solution is to send this man of the borderlands back to his own country." So after talking it through, that's what they decided. In fact, throughout history, many people have acted this way. When people attack religion, they always frame it with a political motive. Those malicious ministers back then saw many of Guru Rinpoche's actions and found them totally unfathomable. On one hand, it had to do with their different religious beliefs, and on the other, all their plots and schemes back then. Consequently, they plotted to expel Guru Rinpoche back to his own country. Those powerful officials formed a faction, reached a consensus, and said to the king, "You are our only lord. This man of the borderlands is very powerful. King, your mind is fixated on the Dharma. This Indian is going to steal your kingdom." At that time, the king might have had some actual influence, but historical records vary on this point. This is the perspective of Taranatha. Master Taranatha probably uncovered the true historical situation of that era. After all, he was a Tibetan himself, and he explained Indian history very clearly in his book, The History of Buddhism in India. So he must have been clear about the historical situation in the Tibetan region. He said the ministers warned that since the king was focusing entirely on spreading the Dharma, our country's governance might end up being controlled by India or completely taken over by them. They said this was like an invasion by outsiders, and that the Indians would bring great harm to the country. In this way, they began to spread such rumors. They said many other malicious things. And for each thing the master had said earlier, they gave many poor reasons why it should not be done. They opposed absolutely everything Guru Rinpoche said. Politicians always act this way. They love to nitpick, find flaws in a person's speech, and bring them up to create an issue. They kept repeating the same demand. You must offer great gifts to the Acharya and Tantric master and ask them to return to India right away. And they made the same demand directly to Guru Rinpoche as well. Those ministers were actually quite something. Previously, when Acharya Shantarakshita was here, they did something similar to make him leave. Now they were doing the same thing to Guru Rinpoche. But as for what happened next, let's take a look at the history. On the surface, it might seem that way, and if I remember correctly, it says Guru Rinpoche was sent straight back to India. However, according to most Terma treasures and other historical records, these ministers pressured Guru Rinpoche to leave. What did Guru Rinpoche and the king actually do? King Trisong Detsen had absolutely no choice under their immense pressure, so Guru Rinpoche was secretly protected by him. Outwardly, it looked like he was sent away and had returned to India, but in reality, he stayed in the place now known as Tidro. There, he bestowed profound Dharma teachings upon Dakini Yeshe Tsogyal and other close disciples. He remained in retreat for 12 or 9 years. By the time he came out of retreat, the political relations at court had become much better. This also explains why Guru Rinpoche holds a Khatvanga staff now. At that time, he used his miraculous powers to transform the Dakini into a Khatvanga to hide her. As for the Thopa, or Kapala, which means a skull bowl, the Kapala is actually one of the main symbols of Guru Rinpoche. When we practice visualization, there are 42 peaceful deities within our heart center and 58 wrathful deities within our cranial cavity. The Kapala that Guru Rinpoche holds in his hand shows that he manifests the state of the wrathful deities. It represents the supreme and unsurpassed attainment. The skull cup held in his left hand clearly represents this attainment. When King Trisong Detsen requested Guru Rinpoche to return to India, Yeshe Tsogyal was there. Then he turned Dakini Yeshe Tsogyal into a Khatvanga by displaying his miraculous powers right there. That is how the Khatvanga appeared in his image. About this Khatvanga, if you look at the older statues of Guru Rinpoche, such as early Termas statues and various ancient statues in Nepal, the Khatvanga was not crafted to be so tall. It rested lower, roughly at this level. That was how the Khatvanga looked. The ones we see in images now are quite tall. I'm not sure where the Guru Rinpoche statue in our shrine hall is. Anyway, this is one perspective from the historical accounts. Later on, after King Trisong Detsen passed away, Munitsempo took over the governance. It was only at that time that Guru Rinpoche finally departed for the land of the Rakshasas. However, regarding this, there seem to be slightly different accounts concerning the timeline. Faced with this crisis, the king was saddened and offered the master a measure of gold dust, prostrated to him, circumambulated around him, and explained his position. He told the Guru, "The ministers are forcing you out of Tibetan region. What should we do?" Hearing this, Guru Rinpoche replied, "Trisong Detsen, you are the king of our hearts. You should never listen to the words of such treacherous ministers." Guru Rinpoche replied, "I didn't come here with the intention of seeking wealth or gold. I came in order to tame the vicious demons of this primitive land of Tibet, to spread the Dharma, and having transformed the country into an excellent land, to bring happiness to its people. If I want gold, it is enough simply to do this." Having spoken, he sprang up in a single bound, merely by touching the rocks around him. The ordinary rocks were instantly turned into pure gold. Yet, out of deep respect for the king, Guru Rinpoche accepted a single handful of the gold, saying he would use it to make offerings at the Vajra seat in Bodh Gaya. Having given the remainder back to the king, Guru Rinpoche then composed a verse. Your good heart guides you to misfortune, your vast compassion causes anger. The king's ministers set his course. The ministers of Tibet are evil demons. That's what Guru Rinpoche said. He came here out of kindness to benefit everyone, driven purely by compassion, but in the end, it could easily bring out hatred instead. The king was completely swayed by these bad ministers. Therefore, those demonic ministers of the Tibetan region were truly mean and terrible. Sentient beings' unwholesome actions can undo even the power of Buddhas. When the negative karma of these beings manifests, even the compassionate hands of the Buddha cannot avert it. In the end, they went ahead and did what those bad ministers suggested. Guru Rinpoche accepted this and prepared to leave. However, during this transition, it is highly possible that Guru Rinpoche actually went into hiding. That is possible. But here, the story is told a little differently. Following this, Padmasambhava bestowed upon the king the practices of the 5 deities of Avalokiteshvara. Later, the king attained the realization of Hayagriva, one of these 5 deities. The image of Hayagriva at the temple of Aryapalo Ling emitted a horse's neigh that could be heard across 2/3 of the entire world of Jambudvipa. That image of Hayagriva in Aryapalo Ling is the one described in the Mayajala Tantra, the net of magical illusion. However, within the net of magical illusion, such as the Vajrasattva net of magical illusion and the Manjushri net of magical illusion, we don't find references to this particular Hayagriva statue. Maybe it's mentioned in other versions of the Web of Magical Illusion or related texts, right? Before he left, the master summarized the remainder of the pith instructions from A Garland of Views. The first part of A Garland of Views was probably already taught. He then gave this profound instruction. The view must accord with the Dharmakaya. The conduct must accord with the Bodhisattvas. If your conduct is lost in the view, you will fall into the nihilistic view, in which there is neither virtue nor wrongdoing, that later cannot be repaired. If the view is lost in conduct, being bound by the characteristics of things, there will be no liberation. This is the quote we use in The Words of My Perfect Teacher. It's pretty much the same thing. In my Semde teachings, the view is emphasized. In the future, there will be all sorts of people who, understanding the words, but not having the confidence of experience. Yet, such people will come asserting that they are working for the benefit of beings. In the era of Dharma decline, some people who carry Guru Rinpoche's teachings might not have any realization themselves, but they will still share and spread his Dharma. There will definitely be people like that. The master did not complete the pith instructions. Since Guru Rinpoche was about to leave because he was leaving so soon, he hadn't finished giving all the instructions. The intended fire offering to secure the king's lineage and increase his power was left unfinished. Nor did the master complete the necessary third binding under of Oath of the Gods and Nagas. At that time, Guru Rinpoche hadn't finished these things. We will talk about this more later. As to why King Trisong Detsen's royal lineage eventually came to an end in later generations, in truth it was closely tied to the destructive acts of those many treacherous ministers. The master could foresee the future, however, and therefore he taught his students many wrathful mantras and likewise hid them, and many profound teachings across various locations throughout Tibetan region. Some are great scriptural treasures of the sublime Dharma, while others are treasures of wealth. Altogether, there are around 108. This is just a general summary. In reality, they number in the millions. The scattered minor termas are incredibly numerous, hidden away in all sorts of different places. Finally, Guru Rinpoche made aspiration prayers repeatedly. Since he was about to depart, he would no longer be able to benefit them directly, and so he made this aspiration. In this and all the lives to come, may I and my ever-generous benefactors, my karmic connection with these generous patrons is entirely unhindered and perfectly open, whether in this present life or in future lives, gather in the sublime and perfect realm of Akanista Ganavyuha, praying that they meet in the supreme Buddha field of Akanista, or on the copper-colored mountain, or perhaps in the blissful realm of Sukhavati, to enjoy the fruit of Mahayoga practice, to enjoy the Mahayoga Dharma and attain the spiritual realization of yoga. He then shared with everyone many oral teachings. At this point, Guru Rinpoche had not yet departed. He was here giving many teachings to sentient beings.
Sonamdei Tamse Rogaya Tonani Dhamma Pasi Tirgana Jirano Chupai Chupun Sonen Droa Droa
Bandangara Padma Sodargye Bandangara Padma Sodargye Bandangara Padma Sodargye